What's up, everybody? Welcome to S.W.A.T MMA. We're smoking weed and talking mixed martial arts. My name is Jarrod. I'm here with Paul.
What up?
We're coming to you from the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. This is episode number 81, and today we are going to be smoking and talking all about UFC Vegas 13, a look ahead to 14. We're going to discuss Bellator 252 and its title fights. We're going to step out of MMA and talk about boxing, including the Kell Brooks versus Terrence Crawford fight this weekend, plus some Canelo news and more. And we're also going to preview this Friday's BKFC 14, headlined by two bare knuckle title fights. Before we get into all of that, grab your weed, fire it up, and let's get started with our weed of the week.
Smoke weed every day.
All right, folks, this week we are smoking on two different kinds of flower and one delicious concentrate. We hope you are puffing down on something delicious as well. Paul is passing me this joint right here that is filled with Platinum OG. What do you think of this right here, Paul?
It's nice.
Platinum OG is nice. It is. We got a lot of different OG strains on the show today.
Yeah.
This is Master Kush crossed with OG Kush, crossed with a third mystery strain that nobody knows, but it's known for its very heavy resin. Mm. Of course, it's a 75-25 indica, as most of these today are going to be.
Indica in the couch.
This is very tasty. Even for, I admit it was a little shaky. It was an ass into my bag I was loading up in here and rolling these with. But we also have some nice buds here of some Fire OG, which is OG Kush once again, this time crossed with San Fernando Valley OG Kush. And Fire OG, Paul, is known as the most powerful of the OG Kush family, and it's super bright red hairs, which you can see. We were checking this bud out pre-show. It is super, super hairy, bright orange all across it, way more of that than the green, and that's how it's got its name.
Yeah, I like the San Fernando Valley Kush. Is like one of my like favorite strains I've ever
go-to
smoked.
strains, yeah, that is good shit right there too.
Cross with that is always
SFV Kush, yeah. And the OG Kush, anytime that's a backbone of a strain, you know it's going to be powerful as well. Mm-hmm. No, we also have some. Go ahead.
It's kind of one of those like old school strains that that put weed on the map type shit.
Absolutely, man. Especially out here, we're not exactly West Coast, but we're close. But we're in the West,
we're pretty West Coast.
And out here the Kush is just in everything.
Yeah,
which is a good thing.
Sure.
That fucking ocean grown. A lot of people think OG stands for Original Gangster Kush, but it doesn't. It's Afghani Kush that was then brought out to the West Coast and grown by the ocean. So OG is actually it's ocean grown Kush, is what it is. It's originally was Afghani Kush. Then it made its way out there, and that's where we get OG Kush from. But since there's a lot of, like OG shit in California, and that term today means something different than it did in I think it was the 70s, late 70s, early 80s when that shit hit out there. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure. We also got a concentrate today in our PAX 3 over here. Now, it's kind of funny. This is the Jet Fuel is the strain that this wax was made out of. And Jet Fuel, we've smoked on this show, the flower, before, which I'm a big fan of. And I distinctly remember because we rolled this joint and we smoked it, and you were like, "What the hell is this?"
Tastes like fucking. Tastes like car keys.
Well, they call it the diesel fuels are called the diesel fuel, but you say it tastes like car keys.
Yeah, it sounds like if you took your car keys, put it in a bottle of water or a fucking pan of water. Took the car keys out and drank the water.
Yeah, that's about right.
That's what it tastes like.
It gets its name for that diesel flavor, that diesel smell. I love all the diesel strains. But that Jet Fuel is a cross of two of the most potent ones. It's Aspen OG and High City Diesel. So, or High Country Diesel. High City. I don't know where that came from. Honestly, I wish we had some of that flour. But even here with that on the packs, you can really taste that strong diesel flavor, can't you? And we got that firing up right now, too. Well, folks, that's what we're smoking on. We hope you're smoking on
Tastes
good
like
stuff
rubbing
as
alcohol.
well. It doesn't taste like rubbing alcohol. Let me see. Let me see.
I'm just kidding.
Yep. Tastes like diesel.
You drink gasoline?
No, but growing up, my dad, he has an auto repair shop. Like, he has his own shop. And so I grew up in the back of one. Maybe that's where it comes from. I just grew up sniffing gasoline and diesel smells my whole life. So I'm like, oh, yeah, nostalgia. Yeah, so see, folks, you're watching on video. We got the weed going. We got the packs going. And like I was saying, I hope you're smoking on some good stuff, too. Fire it up, and let's get started. Man, a lot of different combat sports here. A lot of different places to start with. But you want to start with what happened this past weekend here at the UFC? That was kind of the big news coming out of the weekend so far, which we talked about last week. We saw it was a 205-pound fight, basically for the number one contender. I mean, it's not ever guaranteed in the UFC, is it, Paul? But it's basically for who's going to fight Jan either before Izzy or after Izzy is the only thing, because they are going to supposedly do that super fight. But as far as the division goes, because Israel Adesanya would not be the number one contender, so it doesn't matter if that fight's scheduled. This is still the number one contender fight.
Yeah, he's still
to
the
clarify for our
exactly,
listeners. Right?
Exactly. Well, here's the deal too, and when you look at what transpired on Saturday night, you might be able to have some kind of argument to say where, maybe Izzy should stay at middleweight, and maybe Jan should fight Glover after the performance he put on.
Well, yeah, we saw Glover Teixeira take on Thiago Santos in his return to the 205-pound division since his loss to John Jones, because he had double knee surgery. So it's been, about 18 months since then, I do believe, right in that range.
Well, and
this is
on
a big
top
deal.
of that, this fight has been canceled 3 or 4 times. It's supposed to happen like 3 months ago.
Multiple times. Teixeira came down with the Rona. He, let's be honest here, Teixeira's 41 years old. For those of you listening that may not know, maybe you've heard the name. And he's always been a big name in this sport. However, he hit the UFC late in life. And he's had a title shot in the past, but unfortunately for him, it came against the GOAT, John Jones. Yeah. And he did okay as far as you can do against John Jones before you lose. Mm-hmm. And for those of you that might not know his backstory, just real briefly, he was this name that all the hardcores had heard of for years back when Chuck Liddell was running the show, because he was Chuck Liddell's main sparring partner, right, Paul?
Yeah. He's a fucking monster.
And Chuck used to talk about him, and he was always supposed to come to the UFC, but he's Brazilian, and he had visa problems. Yeah. We never really found out, or at least I personally never really found out what his visa issues were, but they kept him out for years. Yeah. Fucking years. And then he finally made it here. And he's done well, but, he lost to John, and he's 41 now.
Well, he's had the highest to highs in the UFC and the lowest to lows. You're talking about a guy who fought John Jones for the belt, but then right after that, he went on this slump where it kind of looked like, from probably ages 37 to 40, where it looked like 37 to 39-ish, I guess, where you'd look and say, like, maybe he just doesn't have it anymore. And then in these last 5 fights, he just puts on these crazy performances where he gets dropped. He's been in close fights. He's been in competitive fights, but he's just finding ways to win at an age where you'd think his body's failing him, but in reality, he's finding ways and he's finding his new ways to win,
Exactly. He's got a tremendous skill set, and he's using his fight IQ to apply the right things at the right times, it would seem.
He doesn't have the strongest chin anymore, but he has a good enough chin that when he gets rattled, his muscle memory taking guys down or creating grappling situations where guys aren't being able to take advantage of him or finish him. Which, obviously what happened with, Rumble, Johnson, and Gus, both those fights are kind of anomalies. But, outside of that, he's had a pretty good, solid chin throughout his career. So the way he's been able to, even on Saturday, he got rocked early in that fight.
Thiago Santos is, for those that may not know, known for his power. He's got a giant sledgehammer tattoo on his chest exactly. because of his fists.
Yeah. Well, the thing is he rocked him early, but Glover was able to, keep composed. There was kind of like they could have stopped it if he really wanted to, but
Yeah, people would have been upset about it, but luckily they didn't. It was the right call to keep it going.
Keep it moving, keep going, and then he was able to take advantage of Santos's terrible ground games when it comes down to at the end.
Yeah, it ultimately winds up with Teixeira getting the stoppage due to a chokeout. Did he tap or did he go out? I can't remember right now.
I think he tapped.
But he gets a submission.
He tapped pretty quick.
He gets a submission, taps pretty quick. That's right. I can see it now. And shocks everybody. Glover was the underdog, and probably rightfully so with his age.
Absolutely.
And Santos being basically the boogeyman of the division. I mean, he knocked out the current champion. Yeah. A lot of people argue and think that he won the Jones fight, but he did go 5 rounds with Jones, and it was a split decision loss, I guess, technically. Yeah. So,
well, and that's the thing though. He was the first one to do it. Everyone points to Dominic Reyes, but Jones, well, obviously Gus too, but him and Jones, he was the first one to make Jones look like, oh, why is he fighting like that? Which begs the question now, after what Glover just did. Why the fuck didn't John just try to take him down?
Well, because John Jones, and we've discussed it before, and let's not go too far into this, but to answer that question is because he always tries to fight to his fighters, his opponent's technique or abilities. Yeah. And Thiago Santos is known for a stand-up game, so John gives him a stand-up fight. Yeah. I admire the mentality behind it, but at some point I think it's just kind of stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, why didn't he take him down and choke him out real quick? He has all the skills.
That's the thing is Glover was able to, even when Thiago had all the momentum in the fight, was able to still turn the tides just with the takedowns and the ground and pound.
Exactly. And John implied none of that in the fight. But that's, neither here nor there now. Right now we've got Teixeira just looking really good, taking out the number one guy in the division that most people's eyes are, and making his solid claim for a second title shot now with 5 straight victories in the UFC's 205-pound division.
I'm going to say something real quick. I'm worried if he doesn't get a title shot instead of Izzy that he'll never get a title shot. Because let me just lay it out for you.
Lay it out.
So if Jan and Izzy fight, just for the sake of it right now, let's say Israel wins. If Israel wins, he's not fighting Glover Teixeira. He's fighting John Jones.
This is true.
John Jones will come back down and fight him again, which then again is going to take even longer because John's going to go up to heavyweight, fight Stipe, and then have to move back down to light heavyweight. That's like, you know what I'm saying? There's going to be time.
And you think they're only going to do that fight one time?
Exactly. That's my point. So
the Jones Adesanya,
when you're a guy like Glover who's 41 years old, you got to hope and pray that either Jan picks you or Jan beats Israel Adesanya, which, I mean, I'm sorry, I just don't really see happening.
We'll get into we've discussed that prior, and we'll get into that as that fight draws near and is finalized. But, I mean...
Like, Glover's in a real shit situation here.
Yeah.
Because he's not like... I don't know, like... There's plenty of guys who have, like Corey Sandhagen or Aljamain Sterling, who was like, they'd won enough fights in a row to get the title shot, but they weren't really worried about it because, they're 27, 28, 29. Glover's 41 years old.
Yeah, he can't wait another 18 months for a title shot.
He can't sit around and wait for a title shot.
He can't pull a Woodley or one of some of these guys that waited. They got to his spot and then waited a year, 14 months for that shot to come to fruition. He doesn't have that luxury.
It's just not something that he can wait for.
I don't care how good he's looking now.
That's what I'm thinking. If he's going to get the shot, he needs to get the shot next, or he's not going to get one.
You're right. I agree. Good point.
You know what I mean?
And I hope he does, honestly. I'm all for super fights, but...
Wouldn't they make sense, though?
Yeah.
The Jan one doesn't really make sense. That's his first title defense. It's a super fight.
And Israel's only had 2 title defenses since winning the title.
Israel makes more sense than Jan, but it doesn't make much sense for me as a fight.
No, so as much as would be intrigued by the move up to 205 for
let it marinate a bit.
You can let it marinate. And give Glover his shot. I think that's what they need to do. I don't really think he beats Jan, but maybe he does. Wouldn't that be something if he comes through?
He's pretty undeniable at this point. He's won 5 in a row. Come on, man.
Yeah. And
5 in a row. And
not only did he just beat the number one guy, I mean,
finished him.
He finished him pretty solidly. So
yeah.
He's got that old man strength going on. For real.
Hell yeah, he does, dude. Holy shit. He was ragdolling him there for a second. I was like, okay. Thiago Santos needs to work on his ground game, dude. I've seen him get beat that way too many times.
He does.
That's why he wins. Like, obviously, the Jones fight aside, like he wins fights like against Jan, against guys like that who are willing to stand with him because he could just lay them the fuck out. You know what I mean? Because if you look at a guy like that's much smaller than him, like remember earlier when he was at 185, he fought Gegard. Gegard just dispatched him.
Yep.
You know what I mean? On the ground and just whooped his ass. And it was.
This is what Jones should have done. I wish he'd stop this nonsense. If he goes to heavyweight and tries to do that, he's going to have a bit of an issue.
It's just the blueprint to beat Thiago. Survive the hands, take him down, and you have your best chance.
Absolutely. As Glover did quite well. So we know what's next for Thiago. You need to go work on your ground game. And what's next for Teixeira should be this title shot.
I would hope, yeah.
I mean,
if not,
we'll see what happens. Because I think the way you outlined it, this is probably what's going to happen. That wasn't the most exciting. That was a great fight, and it was exciting. But it was not the most shocking thing that we saw on UFC Fight Night Vegas 13, was it?
Dude, it doesn't get more shocking than when Max Griffin literally punched his opponent's ear off.
Yes.
Like
literally punched his ear. The whole top of his opponent's ear was flopping all around for a good 30 to 40 seconds of the fight. Yeah, the ear hole that your whole ear covers, not the one, not your ear canal, the hole that's there when you lose an ear.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was something. You can go to my Twitter feed at MarketingPro13, and you can see some video. Or what's yours, Paul?
I can't think of it.
Then never mind. But you can see ours. It links to our S.W.A.T MMA account as well. Yeah. There's other videos, but
it's fucking disgusting.
You can see it. It's something. If you're a little queasy, you might not want to see it.
Don't watch it at all.
But so in the fight, we have Max Griffin. They're up against the fence. He lands. Was it an elbow or a punch? I thought it was a punch at first.
It was
People were saying it's an elbow.
It was an elbow. Well, here's the thing. It was the elbow, and then the punch on top of it. I feel like the elbow opened the cut.
Yeah,
and the punch ripped it open.
That's what I was going to say. The elbow opened the cut open, and then he punched him with the right hand, and it just tore the ear the rest of the way off. Then the fight continues, and it's flopping around.
And then the ref finally sees it and like, whoa, whoa.
And because there's no crowd, it's pretty silent. So you've got Max. He's up against the cage, and he's punching his opponent in the face, and the ear's flopping all over. And you can actually hear Griffin going, "Oh, my God! Oh, my God! Oh, shit!" And so then the ref comes in and the dude who, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce his name, so I'm not even going to try and butcher it right now. I don't want to butcher it. It's Ramiz.
Yeah.
But he goes and he grabs his ear, and he doesn't really know because you can't tell by your hand what's going on there.
His adrenaline
and he's just like, he grabs it and he seems to think everything's fine, and he touches it and he puts his hands up like, "What? I'm good." That was something. Apparently, he's fine, though. He says he got it reattached, no issues. So,
well, that's the thing.
We can be thankful about that.
When you talk about like cauliflower ear and shit like that, people don't realize all that is like I have it. It's just a bunch of scar tissue. Like this shit is gonna be here for the rest of my life, just because it's just built up scar tissue that builds after you take impact to your ear to protect your ear. So that's really like your ear protecting itself. And so it's going to be
damage,
there. So it's going to be there forever. So when you get into a fucking fist fight, like in somebody's punching scar tissue like we've seen, sometimes it pops, you know what I mean? Pops open. It's
sure thing. It happens to wrestlers' ears, happens to boxers' knuckles and above their eyes, and some MMA fighters above their eyes, like Nate Diaz. Yeah.
Nate Diaz has scar tissue all over his face that you just pop him. He gets popped and it just splits right away,
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously, there's various levels of cauliflower ear that will dictate whether that would happen to you. But that dude had a pretty nasty cauliflower ear, and then he freaking got that shit. That shit was crazy, man. That was nuts. I mean, we've seen that, I think, only once before, right? Who was it? I forget.
It's fairly recently. I don't remember offhand, but Max Griffin gets the win there. Yeah. He's pretty savage. This is a guy to beat Mike Perry. Back in 2018, which I was surprised at that time. I had picked Perry in that fight. He's come through. And he had a couple little mishaps here.
He's one of those welterweights that kind of he fights up to his competition if he's fighting someone big, but he tends to get a little reckless when he's fighting lower level guys. And he's had some weird losses.
So he looked good in that fight, and he gets a nice shine.
Hell yeah!
Off a bloody TKO.
Go
there.
viral.
Absolutely. And we had another fight, which I can't believe it was yet another decision, but we had a heavyweight contest here with Andrei Arlovsky, who is now 42.
Yep.
Although it doesn't count the same as Glover, even though they're not that far. They're only a weight class apart, but it's just, I don't know, folks. It's just different.
Yeah,
it's different for heavyweights.
It is.
You know, Andre's about 240, and you can just fight. You can fight later in life. You can just do it. But anyways,
but he's fought so many times. He's about to have 50 fights, right?
Yeah, he's the former UFC heavyweight
fight.
champion. He's been up and down now, and he was supposed to lose this fight as well.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is like Andrei Arlovsky has kind of decided who becomes a contender in this division for the last couple of years. If you look at his fights, like he's fought guys like Jairzinho Rosenstrike, Felipe Lins, Tanner Boscher now, freaking Francis Ngannou, you know, even.
He's a gatekeeper in the most respectful term.
Yeah, but at the same time, he's the kind of guy that he splits those kind of fights. You know,
he does. He hasn't lost them all. He's done all right. I think
Saturday's a perfect example because you know he came in there as an underdog, and everyone was kind of talking about. I think it's Bozer. Right?
Yeah, Tanner Bozer. Yeah,
Bozer. Yeah, they were talking about him all week. All they were talking about was him. About how this was his big chance to come out and have a real big performance.
Yeah.
And I just feel like Andre came in with a great game plan and just was willing to execute at all levels. You know what I mean? That's what you have to do when you're at that age, you know? It's not about the big knockouts. It's not about the let's rush them and get out of there, when you're 42 years old. It's about let's do what we can do and let's get out of here with a win. You know what I mean? Similar to Glover. You know what I mean? They do what they have to do to win. Like Andre in this fight wasn't too reckless, like we've seen in the past. He was very measured. He was just sharp and measured the whole time.
Yeah, he looked good. He was finding a home for his right hand.
Yeah.
His movement was pretty decent. He's not for a guy that's not known as for having good movement. I mean, in comparison to other guys.
Yeah.
I was overall impressed, and I was glad he got the win. I like Andre. I'm always rooting for the guy.
Yeah.
I miss with Demetrius Johnson, the former flyweight champion, being out of the UFC and in one championship. Now we no longer get the shit on YouTube that we used to. Have you seen any of the videos with Andrei Arlovsky and Demetrius Johnson? Because they're like best friends, or so it would seem in a lot of the videos they put out. But it's just hilarious because he's so big, and fucking Mighty Mouse is so small.
I think you're thinking of freaking Dodson.
Am I thinking of Dodson?
Yeah, it's Dodson.
Is that it?
Yeah, it's John Dobson.
Man, marijuana. Marijuana be fucking with me. I thought I had a good story with Demetrius Johnson. It is John Dodson, huh?
Yeah. And it's because they both were at fucking
They're both
Jackson's.
at Jackson's, yeah.
No, he's not at Jackson's anymore.
That's right.
He's in Coconut Creek.
And Demetrius Johnson is with Matt Hume.
Yeah.
Man, I wish I could hit the rewind button and not be high and think I had just thought of something clever.
But, for real. We don't see as much of him in the media now since he's been over there.
No.
But his performance has been a whole lot
Dodson's
better
not with
lately.
the team anymore, and that's why we probably don't get those fun videos.
Didn't Dodson retire?
He might have.
I think so.
Dude, his star kind of faded.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyways, Arlovsky looked good. Tanner Bozer gets a lesson. I mean, it's heavyweights. He ain't going nowhere. You'll take your loss.
Take your losses.
He's a young dude.
Just learn from that.
He's a trip, dude. Tanner Bozer.
Yeah.
He's got the big old missing tooth.
Yeah, for real.
I mean,
that missing tooth was freaking me out.
It's so weird when people just they're like, fuck it, I'm gonna keep it. I don't care.
Because a lot of these guys, it's hard to keep up with every single guy who's coming up. But I like to watch a lot of the pre-build up of the weekend. When I first saw this dude, and I seen him start talking, he had that missing tooth. I was like, oh shit.
Right, he's got the crazy mullet with the shaved sides,
exactly.
Short hair on top, long hair in back, and then he busts out with the front tooth. He's just got the classic hillbilly look going on.
Yeah, it doesn't give a single fuck. No fucks given at all. But yeah, I think that about wraps up that card.
OG. Yep. This continues some of the trending theme with the UFC's cards being filled with fighters we've never heard of.
One thing I do want to talk about real quick before we get into UFC Fight Night 14, let's talk about some breaking news.
Breaking news.
Not necessarily right now, but yesterday we find out Amanda Nunes is now out of her title fight. The fight is off.
She is,
at
yes.
UFC 256.
Against Megan Anderson.
Supposedly.
They scrapped the fight totally.
Yeah,
no replacement.
undisclosed injury. Well, obviously they're not gonna make an interim title fight for fucking.
I thought they might give
Megan.
Megan a fight anyways. You never know. But
Nah, she said she wants to wait for the title, so they're talking about doing something early 2021. So thinking probably February or something. If it's she said it's an injury that's gonna keep her out a little bit, but not too bad. Which is probably like a hand or something like that. You know what I mean? Or maybe like a dislocated toe or rolled ankle or some bullshit.
Hopefully it's something minor.
Yeah, hopefully.
And honestly, as much as I'd like to see that fight, because I love watching Amanda Nunes fight, I don't like it when fighters are really diminished and then go in anyways.
True. Yeah.
And then they wind up losing their title, and you find out later, like, oh, I was fighting with a broken foot. And you're like, what the fuck? Why didn't you just not do it? It's okay.
It isn't, though. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, especially in her
Well,
situation where she's a dual champ and has a legacy and all that, dude. Yeah, heal up and be the best you.
True.
For real. That's what I want to see. So.
Well, and here's the thing too: is now you're left with one title fight on UFC 256.
Right. We've got Shevchenko defending her title now.
It's Jan versus Sterling.
Oh, we get that beforehand, man. My cards are just mixed up at this time of year.
Shevchenko and who's she fighting again? I forgot.
Oh yeah, that's on the Davis and Figueroa.
Yeah, it's on the Figueroa
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
yep.
She's fighting Jennifer Maia.
Yeah,
and they're doing the dual
Maia.
flyweights at the top.
Yep.
So
Alex Perez, right?
Alex Perez,
Yep.
yes.
Yep. And then, so now 256 just has the bantamweight title at the top of the bill. So
Our friend Aljamain Sterling, who, as much as I like Piotr Jan, I found out his name. You're supposed to say it Piotr.
yeah, Piotr.
Yeah, even though it really looks like Peter.
Yeah.
It looks like the Russian
well, it's like
spelling
same
of
thing as
Peter.
like
It's
Fedor.
Piotr.
It's not his name is not. Fedor,
I know it's like
Fyodor.
Fyodor or something
it's
like
Fyodor.
that. Fyodor, but
Yeah.
no one says. Everybody says Fedor.
Yeah.
If we were on saying Fyodor, people would be like, "Dude, you're saying it wrong."
Yeah, exactly. For real. For real.
Like, are you high?
Yeah.
Fyodor, get the fuck out of here. You guys and your marijuana.
Yeah. So Piotr Land.
Piotr Jan.
There we go.
Peter Jan's fighting Aljamain Sterling.
Which is
Man.
it's a big fight, but I don't know if it has the same luster as far as a card with just the one title fight.
Right.
In my humble opinion, I think what would spice that card up a bit is if you were to throw a nice little lightweight scrap between Michael Chandler and Tony Ferguson as the co-main, and then that would spice it up.
That would spice it up, definitely. That would make a great co-main event.
You could almost make that the main event.
I
Honestly.
wish you could to get the 5 rounds out of it, but you can't diss Aljamain and Jan like that. It's not Conor McGregor. I mean, to us, they're
here's
great,
the thing.
but
If
that ain't.
Here's my point, though. If you're going to do that at the top of the bill, you better start doing your freaking advertising of someone like Aljamain, who's outgoing and willing to do the press and all that stuff.
Dude, Aljamain Sterling is a star in waiting. I
Absolutely.
fail to understand why the UFC has not embraced him, and hopefully, if he wins, which I think he has a very strong possibility of doing, and which I'm really rooting for, they'll get behind this kid, and he'll get some fucking media time, and he can draw some attention for this upcoming TJ Dillashaw coming out of retirement shit.
Yeah. Well, and also here's the thing: is like that's a really good fight. Like that is a coin flip.
Sterling,
Yeah.
fuck yeah,
It's
that's
a coin
great
flip.
fight.
Like Jan is a monster,
He is absolutely.
but Sterling is another one that's just like he's a guy who's like kind of evolved in front of our eyes. You know, he like came into the UFC pretty young, and he he's really like sharpened all the tools if you really look at it.
He has.
You know what I mean? And so now the question becomes like, who's got the better skills? You know what I mean? Like Jan's got some power in his hands.
And Jan's got really tight boxing. Like he has
Dude,
power and he's got real good boxing.
His wrestling defense is super underrated. Like he doesn't get taken down. Like he just finds ways to not lose scrambles and get back to his feet. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd like to see that's a big fight, but I would like to see this card
Sterling's
get spiced
unpredictable.
up just a bit.
He's got a good ground game. He's got that Matt Serra, BJJ.
Spice
and
it up
he's
just a bit for me,
unpredictable.
though.
He's very
Just a little bit.
unpredictable.
I need one more fight in there just to get me out of bed.
Dude, we could say that about all these cards.
Well, here's the thing. That's a pay-per-view, though.
Yeah, for a pay-per-view, with
They gotta
losing Nunes, they should.
Yeah.
They
There's
should
got to be
add
another
some
big
force.
fight that has to land on that card.
I was hoping we did get some, Conor McGregor Dustin Poirier fight finalized news, but I was hoping that the news would be they were going to rush it into like a December card here, or that one even. But oh well.
From what everyone is saying online, though, it's like multiple media sources have like MMA Fighting and MMA Junkie, and a lot of everyone except Ariel Helwani basically has said that it's a done deal. Poirier McGregor, UFC 257.
Well, I'm looking forward to our show on that. That's for sure.
That's huge.
That's absolutely.
That's humongous.
We'll probably do a whole episode about that.
Yeah, for real.
Aljamain Sterling, Petr Yan. They got some time maybe to fill something in. We'll see. Either way, that fight I do like.
Yeah.
I'm going to hit this Fire OG here.
So, quick question, though, for that McGregor fight. So, there's been some news lately about how Dana White has not really talked to Khabib's team, but Khabib has put out all this stuff that's saying he's retired, he's done. I don't want to fight anymore.
Yeah, he just put a reason to catch everybody up in case they don't follow Nurmagomedov news. He put out a statement here, or not put out a statement. He was asked about people not thinking his retirement was real, and he was like, "Look, I'm retired. I don't know what you want me to say. You might not like it, but that is what it is."
Mm-hmm.
But
and in response this weekend in the post-fight press conference, Dana goes, "Well, we don't think so yet. We'll offer him some stuff. We'll see what happens." So, how long can he hang on to that? You know what I mean? How long can he hang on to that like response?
Well, here's the question. And I think the question is the answer to that.
Yeah.
When will Nurmagomedov drop out of the
USADA pool?
USADA testing pool?
Yeah.
Which, if he drops out of that, Dana cannot keep offering him fights, and that's pretty much that.
Yeah. Well, in the case that happens, do you make this McGregor and Poirier fight for the vacant lightweight title?
I would imagine that's exactly what they do.
Or
why wouldn't they?
What they could do, it would piss them off so bad, but they could do Tony and Michael Chandler for the vacant lightweight title to fill that spot and sell that main event.
Yeah, they could. I don't think that would go over too well with the fans. I mean, honestly, I tend to think what the UFC will do based on what's going to maximize their bottom line. And what will maximize their bottom line is Conor McGregor in a title fight.
Yeah, true.
Just want to remember something.
That is true. That's true. I think when it comes down to it, though, I don't know if they want to hand Conor McGregor a belt anytime soon. Just because if he wins it, who knows when he'll ever fight again.
I don't know. He seems pretty anxious to fight, actually, for a change.
He is, but that's the thing, though, is like another big payday and another belt. Like, how much does that sway him away from being like, oh, dude, I've just fucking done it all? Like, that's literally his mindset. Whenever he wins these big fights, it's just like, fuck, man, I'm the fucking greatest. This is cool. I'm out.
This is true.
I'm out, bro. I'm out. Like, that's the thing is, like, even though he's still fighting Dustin, he's talking about still fighting Manny in March. So that's the thing. So it's like, if he goes into this fight and they were to hand him some kind of belt and he walks off into boxing again, makes the UFC look stupid.
I don't know. Nurmagomedov has taken years in between fights. They had to create 2 interim championships in between his 2 defenses because he takes so long in between fights. Does it matter if he did it for whatever reason and Conor does it because he goes and boxes?
Here's the thing,
really?
though. There
At
really
this point,
is never...
the division's used to that shit. Just to play devil's advocate.
Yeah, I feel you. But at the same time, at this point right now, I don't think the division's ever really had as many, like, shark-infested waters type, like, contenders. You know what I mean? Like, the division is fucking stacked right now.
Yeah, I'd like to see this shit get rolling.
Let's go. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you can't be holding the belt for fucking a whole year fighting one time a year. Like, that shit's not going to fly.
Matter of fact, I'm so pro getting it going. That's why I don't understand why we're fucking around with Khabib. Like, if Nurmagomedov,
yeah, come on, dude. Like with how he was in the octagon at the end and all that stuff.
Dude, and look who we're talking about.
Yeah,
we're not just. This isn't Conor.
Yeah.
Are you seriously, dude? We know that I'm not personally a fan of him, but dude, he has several things, and he is definitely, in my mind, a man of his word. When he says shit, he fucking means what he says.
Yeah.
Like, he said he's retired. I just can't imagine him.
Going back on that.
Or this is some sort of ploy, like literally doing what Conor does, which he says he's retired and nobody believes it because he's just like, fuck you, pay me.
Exactly, yeah.
And I don't see Khabib doing a fuck you, pay me publicly and invoking his mother and his deceased father while doing it. I can just, dude, are you kidding me? That just goes so anti everything that we, on the surface at least, know about Khabib Nurmagomedov and what his word means to him and the type of man that he is.
Well,
I
don't
know what the fuck he's doing. Get the division going, Dana.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like it's not a negotiation strategy.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just is what it is. Like he feels like he's done what he needed to do and he can step away now. And obviously his father dying has a big part of that, and him promising his mother he wouldn't fight again. Like there's two things there that happen that are just so deeply personal that it goes beyond money and goes beyond fame and all that kind of stuff.
And he has those things. You know what I mean? He can make more money. He doesn't need MMA to make money now.
No, not anymore.
And he's a worldwide star, but especially in his region and in his culture and in his area, he's probably as big as it gets right now.
Yeah.
So I think it's almost insulting to Khabib for Dana to be sitting here and going, "Oh, he was just emotional."
It's like, no.
Because that almost makes it sound like he just said it in a moment of weakness. Like, no, dude, that wasn't weakness, dude. Like, he conquered the mountain without his dearly departed father, and some emotion came forth after that.
Yeah.
That wasn't like Daniel Cormier bitch crying in the fucking ring because John Jones kicked his ass. That's not the same thing. This man was crying for a whole different reason, and it wasn't an emotional outburst of retirement. Get the fuck out of here, Dana. Yeah. It's disrespectful.
It is. It is, because it's like, here's the thing is, now you have a whole division of, like we were saying, like 1 through 10 at least is all just freaking ridiculous fighters that all have some kind of claim to the belt. So if you can't get this thing going and you're going to hold this division up and you're going to put these big fights on the bill and pretty much have no implications outside of what's going to happen between these Conor and Dustin, or Michael Chandler and Tony, or Michael Chandler and Gaethje, or whatever that happens there.
Yeah.
What the fuck are we doing here then? You know what I mean? Like,
that's absurd.
Like, that's just really what it comes down to.
Is Dana just holding out because he thinks he can book some big fight with the returning Nurmagomedov? He's being a dick and he's putting money first, and I find it insulting. And this is for a guy I don't much care for, and I'm like, what are you doing, prick? I mean, come on.
It's a prick move for sure.
So. Probably rounds up that lightweight talk. Let's shift back into
a new lightweight fight.
Yeah, because I was going to say, continuing along with lightweights, we do have the UFC Las Vegas Fight Night 14. God damn, these are getting tiresome to say. From the Apex in Las Vegas. Paul Felder stepping in for the injured
Islam Makhachev.
Yes, to fight Rafael Dos Anjos in the return to lightweight. Dos Anjos had been calling out Michael Chandler. Chandler flat out said, yeah, the UFC's got other plans for me, buddy. Good luck. Which I found kind of funny. And then Paul Felder steps up out of the broadcast booth.
He was supposed to be he was supposed to be the commentator for this fight.
Yeah.
And now he's the one fighting it. Paul Felder's been like that though for years. You know, he's a fucking gangster, dude.
Paul Felder's a gangster as fuck.
He will show
fucking
up
Irish
and
OG,
fight,
man. I know Connor's an Irish OG, but Paul Felder's an Irish OG too. That motherfucker don't fuck around. I like Felder. I enjoy his commentary, and I assume he's staying in good shape.
For him too.
Because the only thing I think to worry about would be the weight cut on 5 days, but he's professional.
He was training for a marathon though.
If he was training for a marathon, he should be fine.
Yeah.
I mean, he's as pro as it gets.
Said, though.
I'd be shocked if he missed weight, even on 5 days' notice. I don't know if he would accept the fight if he couldn't make weight. You know, it's not like he's desperate for a fight.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he's the top guy though. Kind of like we were talking about before. Who was it? A couple weeks ago. Who was the coach that stepped in and
Jason Krause.
James Krause.
James Krause.
Yeah.
That's funny. I grew up with a Jason Krause. That's where I came in. That was a dude I used to know. James Krause.
James Krause, like those kind of guys who just like are there because they're working for the UFC in some capacity or for a fighter, and they're just down to go. Those are the best kind of like. Those are the guys who will always have a legacy in the sport. You know, kind of the guys like Cowboy, Felder. You know, people who are just like if they're there, and they feel like They're feeling good. Yeah, I'll fight. It's cool. Let's do it. And fucking those kind of guys just like are the freaking the heartbeat of the UFC to me.
And Felder's no joke. I mean, it's
yeah.
not like he's.
This is going to be a competitive fight.
Folks, listen, if you might not know, like when we say come out of the broadcast booth, we don't mean like he's retired or anything. He just is broadcasting on the side. Yeah. Now for a lot of UFC events. Yeah. But he is. What is he ranked? He's top 10. I believe he's 10th. It's somewhere. He's a ranked fighter. He's a damn beast.
RDA has been his former lightweight champion.
And RDA is a former lightweight champ, making his return after 3 years to the welterweight division, or from the welterweight division. And he is in dire need of a win. Rafael Dos Anjos needs a win here. He's been getting his ass
last
beat
fight, though.
up. Yeah.
Beat Kevin Lee.
He beat Kevin Lee coming up to welterweight.
Yeah, where he shouldn't have been.
No, clearly. Because, I mean, unfortunately for Dos Anjos, we say he's lost, but he has lost to the cream of the crop at welterweight. But for a minute there, he was kind of like the litmus test to see if you get a title fight was to go beat up Dos Anjos. Yep. It happened like 3 times in a row, and all those guys got title shots off of it. Yep. And then he fights Kevin Lee, and then he wins.
And then back on down.
So,
he's still a formative opponent. I mean,
absolutely.
He's lost a step a bit. Let's just be honest here, and it is what it is with a guy who's fought as long as someone like RDA. But at the end of the day, this is a huge fight for Paul Felder. If he's able to go in here on 5 days' notice and get this win, I think that just adds to the narrative, and
just the UFC will reward him.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Because he's already on their good side anyways.
Yeah, he's already an employee of the UFC.
And now he's stepping up.
Yeah.
And if you've been watching the UFC, you know who he is, because he's in that broadcast booth. Mm-hmm. And the UFC, if they're smart, they'll play on that if he wins. And, yeah, it's a good deal all around. I'm actually rooting for him. I hope he gets the win here. No disrespect to RDA, but I think his time is done in the UFC, frankly. I mean, I'm not trying to shit on the guy, but I haven't seen nothing in his fights. I mean, yeah, you beat Kevin Lee, but I don't think Kevin Lee had any business being in that fight at welterweight right now anyway.
No,
so.
yeah, he's had some real tough outings. Well, here's the deal. I think Paul Felder's going to win this fight, man.
I think Paul Felder's going to win this fight, too, the Irish Dragon.
I think he's going to pull this out.
He's going to, and he's smart. He'll use this moment to call out a name.
I don't know if he does, though, because he's, flirted with retirement for, the last couple of years. After the Hooker fight, he said this was his last fight. And then, now he's taking another fight, so it's where
I figured he wouldn't take a short notice fight win and then be like, okay, no, that was it. Because what's the point of the short notice fight if it's not a springboard to something?
Well, the Hooker fight wasn't a short notice fight.
No, I mean this one. I'm saying if he was real about his, his quasi-retirement, he was like, I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe this is just a fun fight for him.
And Hooker's a elite fighter, and I thought Felder won that. It was a close fight, but ultimately he lost.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that about wraps up that card. There's some other fights on there, but nothing.
Yeah,
nothing too appealing.
No, it's the UFC's just cranking them out here to get to that magic number of 45 here.
Well, they're waiting for their next pay-per-view. That's really where the solid fights are at.
Well, we've had some news in boxing here lately. Boxing has been on a roar.
Yeah.
I mean, since they've come back here with fights, I mean, in my opinion, they're even doing better than the UFC because now they're incorporating fans in. I mean, I know that the UFC and boxing aren't run the same whatsoever. However, when you just look at it as a fan standpoint, for me, I'm over the no fans being in for fights.
Yeah.
It was kind of cool in the beginning, but for me, at this point, when I watch it and there isn't a fan base inside, I feel like we're missing out. We have the BKFC bringing fans in. We had 10,000 in attendance at the Tank Davis fight in the stadium. And we've got some more boxing coming up this weekend where we've got Terrence Bud Crawford fighting Kell Brook, excuse me, coming in. And this fight, when it was announced a couple months ago, I was kind of surprised it came a little bit out of nowhere.
Yeah, but here's the thing is, with Terrence Crawford, he's just having a hard time finding, one, people who want to fight him, and two, a really big fight right now with his promotion, and you know how boxing is.
It's
just
the politics. They're
yeah,
fucking
for
him a
sure.
little bit with opponents because he's top rank, and Al Heyman's got a lot of the champions in this division with PBC,
Yeah.
and they're just not wanting to get together and make some of these fights, and that sucks.
Yeah.
So we've got this here, this is a little bit different for Brooks because we've seen Brooks lose to Triple G, and we saw him lose in his.
Well, here's the thing. He was undefeated in his career going into the Triple G fight.
Right.
Triple G fight was close. Some people thought he won. Some people thought he lost.
He did.
Either
I remember
way,
that was a very close
it
fight.
was a close fight. And then you move on to the Earl Spence fight. He gets knocked out.
Right, and that was a weight class back down. Like he moved up for Triple G.
Yeah.
Correct, and then he moved back down for Earl Spence.
Yeah.
Boxing's.
Well, here's the thing, though, is like 2 knockouts in a row. You freaking. I think he actually got knocked out by Triple G, if I remember correctly. I gotta check that, just because.
Well, Earl Spence definitely KO'd him.
Yeah, Earl Spence fucking flatlined him, which was just crazy. I remember watching that shit, and that's really what put Earl Spence on the map. If you really look at it, those kind of fights were the ones that really built the narrative.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he got TKO'd by Triple G. That's
Okay,
what I
so it
thought.
wasn't the close one
yeah.
that I was thinking of.
Yeah, no, I think that doesn't matter. Either way,
So yeah, he's coming off the TKO to Triple G and then the loss to Earl Spence.
back to back, and then he wins 3 in a row at super welterweight, which is weird because now this is at welterweight again.
Right.
So you'd think that he would have to win some welterweight fights before he drops down, but his name value carries some weight, I guess.
The name value and the difficulty, I think, in getting a different opponent. And he's out in public making some statements that this fight is going to be different because it's not contested in the IBF, where he had a rehydration clause in his previous fights, he said, where it kept him from regaining more than 10 pounds after weigh-ins.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have that in this fight. So he's publicly saying that's going to be the difference here, and that he has been previously underperforming due to still being kind of half weight cutting instead of being allowed a full hydration like most fighters are. With no rehydration clause in this fight, we'll see. I don't know, Paul. You and I both know fighters say what fighters say. And
here's the thing.
That's what their job is to do, is figure out in their head why they lost before and make it right so they can go forward. But that doesn't mean it's true.
Well, he had like his
But he
last
could have a point.
his last 3 fights haven't been the biggest of names. He was supposed to fight Amir Khan, that fell apart. Then he out of nowhere announced his retirement. Then he came out of retirement. Now so it's like, you know what I mean? It's like one of those situations where it's a weird fight, and I understand why it's happening, but I think it's one of those cases where like Kell Brook has nothing to lose here.
Absolutely
And Bud
not.
Crawford has everything to lose. I don't think he's going to lose. Bud Crawford's most likely going to dominate this fight, in my opinion.
Yes.
But I'm just saying, as far as the stakes involved, like Bud Crawford beats him, and everyone will say, yeah, he was supposed to beat him.
Mhm.
But Kell Brook has the opportunity to, shock the world.
He
You
could
know what
come
I mean?
through and risk it all. He could be up higher in weight class. He could be trying to bulk on some weight because he can do a big cut and then fully
Bud's a
rehydrate.
big-
But Bud's not a
pretty
small
big, though.
man.
Yeah, he's pretty big, though. Like, I see him dominating this fight, to be honest.
I do too. I don't think this is going to be much of a contest. But there is a possibility, like there always is in fighting, but it's not just a cliche in this sense, that Brooks could take him. Like Amir Khan's out there saying that he has everything to stop Bud Johnson, which I don't know. I think
Crawford.
Bud
He's
Crawford.
already lost
I think he's
to him
just trying
before,
to fucking big up a future fight.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. He wants a rematch. That's what it is. Because he got his ass slept.
That's what I was saying.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what's crazy is, like, the only fight to make here is Bud Crawford and Earl Spence, dude. That is the fight. Everybody else can talk all the shit they want.
Yes, sir.
But the two that you really can't touch are Earl Spence and Bud Crawford. That fight has to happen. Like, I know the car crash happened, and that is kind of, fucked things up a little bit. And I can't fault him for that. You know
Well,
what I mean?
of course not.
But at
But
the
we
same
can still
time,
sit here and say this fight has to
It
happen.
has to happen, man. It has to happen in the next year, too, because I don't want to do this Floyd Manny shit where we're fucking having them fight at ages fucking 34 and 36, and both of them are fucking done.
Nah, when they're both past their prime and it's safe.
They may have even been older than that when that happened. You know what I mean?
Right.
So here's the thing, is like, we need to get some promoters to start fucking working together for once, man. Like, Jesus. Like, that's what sucks
Let's get it
about
done.
boxing. What's good about the UFC, you know, like it's two different businesses, but the UFC kind of has the say of who's fighting who because they have everyone.
Yeah.
Whereas boxing, it's like, well, I'm promoted by here, I'm promoted by there. Well, we don't want to make money with them because they fucked us with this fight or this history of bullshit. But this is literally the biggest fight in boxing at this point.
Yes,
in my
sir.
opinion. Earl Spence and Bud Crawford is the biggest fight in boxing. Outside, even I think it's bigger than, maybe not commercially, but I think it's bigger than Fury Joshua. Like,
You mean as far as like repercussions and skills, as far as
Yeah.
like maybe for the boxing
like,
world, but
like
not
pound
in like
for pound list,
not
yeah.
in like sales to the general public.
Yeah,
I would agree
yeah.
with you there. It is a bigger fight.
Yeah. So
man.
let's transition into some other boxing news recently. So we had Deontay Wilder release a series of videos and comments and things of accusations of Tyson Fury having egg weights in his gloves, to his coach conspiring to drug him before the fight.
Yeah, Breland.
Yeah,
conspiring
Mike Breland,
to
yeah.
spike his water
Spiked his
with
water.
Fury's camp before the
crazy.
fight.
Or-
Olympic
Like, come on, dude.
Olympic
Like, come on.
boxer Mark Breland.
Yeah, come on, dude.
One of the he's a very well. If
He's a
you
very
don't know who we're
well-respected,
talking
yeah.
about,
He's
just
a
trust us. He's an extremely well respected and honorable man in the boxing world.
Yeah.
Who was just accused by the former heavyweight champion of the world of spiking his goddamn drink.
Yeah, which is nuts. It's just nuts. Come on, let's just.
And he
call it
wasn't
what it
done with
is,
that
you
either.
know?
I mean, he first he had the egg weights, then he had that, and then
He said something about his gloves.
yeah.
They took the padding out of his glove or something like that.
And his gloves were partially off of his hand so that he could
Yeah.
extend further and hit Deontay with the unpadded part of his fist, and the padded part of the glove would flop below.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
I don't understand what's happening.
He's going crazy.
Look,
He's-
we're
he's-
Deontay
he's
Wilder fans on
damaging
this show.
Yeah, he's damaging his image a lot.
Yeah, we have to look at reality here. He's having a fucking meltdown, Paul.
Yeah.
This makes no sense.
Just fucking train hard and move on and fight him again. But don't come out with this bullshit, man. This is just too much.
Breland was correct in throwing the towel in. I don't think there is anybody outside of Deontay Wilder's camp or his most crazed fans that disagree with that statement.
Yeah. It's just nuts.
And he's fired the man, accused him of sabotage, and accused Fury of being just a ridiculous cheat.
Yeah.
And doing things that I honestly, in my opinion, I'm not an insider. I'm not there. I don't really know what goes on anymore in boxing. Yes, I was a boxer years ago, amateur, Golden Gloves, etc. But I don't know what they're doing back in the scenes. But I really don't believe you can get away with all these things that he's accusing of in fucking 2020.
It'd be tough.
Like, I mean, everybody's sitting there watching you get the hand wraps. Everybody's recording shit for fucking Twitter and Facebook and posterity and the commission. Everybody's signing fucking raps. The other team inspects them. I mean, this isn't some back alley bullshit from the 1950s, bro. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
And I hate to use that term now. It's just overplayed in the media. Anyways,
Come on.
what are you doing, Deontay?
Yeah, you're just damaging everything you built as a champion. Like, I get it. A loss and a tie hurt. But at the same time, firing the coach who saved you for the third fight was not the best choice. You could have took a rest of the beating. You could have got put down. That's up to you. But
Who knows how bad that would have got, but it would have gotten bad.
It could have gotten bad quick. And here's the thing, is when you're a guy who is 286 pounds and you're fighting a guy who's 219 pounds, it's a fucking big difference. You know what I mean? That, it calls into the question of, does he need to put some more weight on? He needs to sharpen his boxing skills, learn how to use his jab more. There's just so much shit that he has to do to try to, come back from the fight that happened in the second fight.
Absolutely.
That I think it's put him in this situation where he's saying he's in denial is really what it comes
He's absolutely in denial. And for those who argue and say, well, Fury's not a power puncher and he wouldn't have, That doesn't matter. He's a 286-pound man that hits very fucking hard. You're right. He doesn't have this miracle KO one-punch power of a Deontay Wilder. No.
And he didn't do that on the night. On the night, he picked him apart and hit him with big shots.
Yeah, and he hits like a Mack truck, I guarantee you.
Yeah.
No average human being could take a punch from Tyson Fury. He's a gigantic man.
Yeah. And here's the thing too: is when you look at the gym he went to, that Kronk gym, and how that style of boxing,
that aggressive style,
it's like that you use that weight to bear down on your opponent with your punches. You know what I mean? You know, you sit down on your, it's just a complete different style of fighting. You know what I mean? Where it's just pressure forward and aggressive. And I just don't think Deontay was ready for that.
No, he wasn't ready for it at all. That's why he lost.
Well, and Tyson was so passive in the first fight. He was so willing to, parry strikes and make him look stupid rather than put him on the ground.
And the truth is, Tyson Fury's father was proven correct. Like, he did not want Tyson to fight Wilder for the first fight. He said that he was not ready. He was still recovering from the depression and the weight gain and getting back, and he was still super rusty, and he went out there and fought great to a draw that many people thought he won, but a draw nonetheless. Yeah. And then now, this second fight, not only did he switch up his style and go to the Kronk gym and apply those tactics, but he was fully in shape.
Right.
He's fully back in the groove and not still climbing the ladder back to what he was before.
Well, and here's the thing. The man is 6'9", so it's like 285 pounds is like heavy, but it distributes enough to make him look like he's in terrific shape. You know what I mean?
Right. And he may not have that one-punch knockout power, but I guarantee you when he leans forward and puts that weight in those punches.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, Deontay Wilder would have got seriously injured. You maybe a one-punch KO, no, but you want to take 50 more blows from that man?
No, it's probably not best
to your unprotected head?
It's just not what's best for you.
I feel bad for Deontay. This is a terrible thing. I mean, he's a grown man. Do what you fucking want, bro. But I wish you weren't putting it out on social media.
Yeah.
You can believe all these things. Tell yourself what you got to tell yourself to get back in that fucking ring. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But putting it out for all of us,
it's not the move.
Bro,
yeah,
I wish it would.
It's definitely not the move.
And now we've got Tyson Fury talking about fighting Anthony Joshua anyways.
Yeah, they already have
Joshua's got a fight.
They already have a
2-fight
deal.
Yeah, they have a 2-fight deal. Joshua's got a fight against
Polovkin.
Yeah, Polovkin.
And then Fury's got a fight against another guy from ESPN. I don't really know who he is. That's kind of like the Bud Crawford, same thing. It's like, now that he's on ESPN, he's like, he fights the ESPN rankings.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But they both do what they're supposed to do, get past those guys. Deontay Wilder could find himself sitting out in the cold while they go and unify these titles.
True.
And what he's out there saying now isn't helping, man.
Yeah.
It's not helping the case.
It's not. No.
So.
Well, speaking of the case, someone won a case, and that's Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez has officially been released of his DAZN and Golden Boy contracts, and now he says, I don't know what he's doing, if he's going to either be a free agent or he's going to start his own promotion or what's
Last
going on.
I've heard, even with the fight that he signed, he's still technically a free agent. Now, that could change, or maybe that information isn't released as of yet. But what a move.
Absolutely.
I mean, he goes to court, and almost immediately they come to this agreement. So clearly they didn't want to fuck around with a court case and go to trial of any kind.
Like I've said before on the show, and I said that I didn't know for sure, but now I definitely know for sure that something fishy's going on over there at DAZN. Something's happening.
It is. Well, remember BKFC signed a deal with DAZN too, and then all of a sudden now they're on their app and they're on CBS Sports.
Mm-hmm. Bellator too.
And Bellator as well.
Bellator is the one on CBS Sports.
Well, DAZN's appearing on other things instead of Jesus Christ, I'm high. BKFC is appearing on other things instead of DAZN as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Point being, they're having some trouble.
Yeah.
And then now they've lost. That was like a $345 million contract.
It was
huge.
like the biggest contract in boxing. And so now the question becomes: is we going to get a Canelo Alvarez promotion or what?
Very interesting. Yeah.
Well, news is, or rumor is, it's going to be December 19th versus Caleb Plant.
Undefeated Caleb Plant. Wow. Now, we wrote about him a few articles in Slugfest last year as well, picking his fights. What is he, 20-0?
20-0, 12 knockouts.
Yeah.
He's a WBC champion, super middleweight champion.
That's a good fight.
Huge fight.
That's a very good fight.
When you're like, Canelo's just kind of at this point in his career where every fight he takes has got to be a huge fight. It has to be for a belt, or
Yeah, it's got to be for a belt.
It's got to be in some different weight class. Like, he's spicing it up everywhere.
He's going up so high, down, picking them up everywhere, just picking fools apart.
Here's the problem, though, is that he was gonna fight Billy Joe Saunders. He was gonna fight Caleb Plant before. He was gonna fight. There's all these people he was gonna fight, and it just seemed like DAZN and Golden Boy were just not ever having, like, there was never any communication with other promotions. I think it's Billy Joe's represented by what's his name? Doesn't matter. Either way, my point being is the promotions. Yeah.
Tommy Hearn?
No, Eddie Hearn.
Eddie Hearn?
Yeah.
Tommy Hearn.
Yeah, but like it was just seemed like every time there was a rumored Canelo fight, things would fall apart at the negotiating table, and you can't do that to a major fighter who's trying to fight 3 times a year.
No.
He just has so much leverage in court.
What's going on with Oscar anyways, man?
He's fighting. He's gonna fight freaking what's his name?
Why? I mean, is it really this interest in seeing this dude fight?
Who did Floyd? He fought him twice. He almost beat Floyd late in his career. His nickname is like Little China Guy, but he's Mexican.
Does he need money that bad?
Yeah.
I mean, if you listen to Dana
the fuck
White,
is his name, dude?
Dana's out there talking about he just needs some coke money.
Yeah.
Which is brutal. Dana's been
Marcos Maidana. That's who it is.
Marcos Maidana.
Yeah. Supposedly they're fighting.
And Oscar's, I mean, his reputation's gone to shit. At least in our sphere of MMA. I mean, he tried that fucking MMA promotion.
Chuck Liddell.
It was a joke. That was terrible.
Yeah, it was rough.
It was absolutely horrible. He came out and did that press conference. He didn't even bother to learn the names of any of the fucking fighters on his card. Went out there and butchered them. Looked a fool. Looked like he was fucking coked out. Got roasted all across MMA world by Dana White. He just lost his, Canelo's got to be their biggest guy, right?
Oh, yeah,
by far. Just in that massive contract. Just lost that. So that whole deal's off. And now he's fucking at 47 years old talking about, no, I'm going to go fight Marcos Maidana.
Yeah.
And they're doing it?
Supposedly.
What is up with that?
Let's see.
Is this dude having a meltdown right now? Is this like or is it Maduro?
No, this is Marcos Maidana, Oscar De La Hoya in talks
When he beat
for fight.
I don't think there's a demand to see this.
Well, here's the thing, though, is De La Hoya is 47 and Maidana is only still 37.
Right.
Maidana's had some weird body transformations as of late, though. He was fat as fuck after he retired, dude. He got huge. And then, like, he got in shape again. And then, I don't know. People were accusing him of, juicing.
Back when I was boxing, I boxed out of 3D boxing in Colorado Springs, Colorado, which was like a block and a half up the street from the Olympic Training Center and like down this shitbag little alleyway, like literally like dank graffiti-filled alleyway with just this red door. We had a boxing gym back there. And this fighter came through named Teron Millett, and you can check him out on Google or whatever. He was a WBC champion. He went on to be. But he fought out of our gym for a while. He's a real cool dude. I've told stories about him on here before. But he fought Oscar De La Hoya came through in training. It was for the 96 in the Olympics, I believe it was. And I can't remember the exact year, but they bring Oscar in to spar with fucking Teron. And Millett just lays him out 3 times in the fucking first round, out on the fucking canvas. And then they were like, that's it. Like, De La Hoya packed up his fucking team, everybody, hauled ass out of the fucking gym, and never came in again. And prior to that, I had known who he was, being, on the amateur circuit and everything. You fucking hear about these stars, and I had been such a fucking fan. And then he comes in. I was so excited to watch him, and Teron fucking just lays this fool out. And then he just like bitches out and fucking pieces out of the gym and left. And ever since then, my point being, I've never been a fucking fan of Oscar De La Hoya since he came to my gym and fucking just got laid out and was a bitch about it and fucking pieced out and refused to fucking honor the spar. Because, you know, you had to sign agreements to spar.
Yeah.
It was like a big deal. It wasn't just like random. Like, they had to fucking sign shit and do agreements and fucking. Now, all these years later, he's 47, and I still don't like his fucking ass. And I hope he gets his fucking ass kicked in his comeback fight, honestly.
I mean, I don't know why he's coming back, but it is what it is. He needs money, I guess.
I guess. We'll see.
Well, I think that about wraps up our boxing talk for the day.
I think it does, man. That leaves one more thing semi-boxing related, which, I mean, honestly, I'd rather see Oscar go do something like this. BKFC. Bare Knuckle Fighting Champions.
Oscar De La Hoya bare knuckle fight.
I wouldn't be talking as much shit if he was doing that instead of some fucking boxing, but whatever. Number 14 coming up this weekend. This is going to be on the BKFC app, which I have been unaware of because BKFC has just been doing lots of different things here lately. A lot of their stuff is sometimes it's on YouTube for free. They had signed a deal. I don't know if it's going through now. I'm not sure what's up, but this one is on their app, and I had looked into this, and we're not sponsored in any way by BKFC. I'm simply saying this as a fan. You can currently get, to my understanding, all of their streaming events and their fight library on their app in the Google Play Store for fucking $3.99 a month, which is crazy. So there is a fight card coming up this Friday from when this show is first aired. With 2 title fights at the top, headlined by the 155-pound fight between Louis Palomino, the current champ, versus Jim Allers. Man, I have a hard time saying that one. It's like one of those like Worcestershire sauce. Some people can't say that. I have a hard time saying Jim Allers' name. But you might recognize both of those if you're a casual fight fan. Palomino had some epic fights with Justin Gaethje in the World Series of Fighting, championship bouts. I mean, those are just...
Palomino's been around the game forever.
Those are classic MMA bouts. Those are really worth going back and watching.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And Allers is a former UFC fighter. He's a very seasoned vet.
Yep.
And this should be an absolute excellent fight.
Should be a war.
An absolute war. If you're new to the BKFC, which you probably are... I mean, this is the most legit of the bare knuckle promotions. There's been a few that have tried it, and there's still now, like Ken Shamrock's trying to start some fucking new one.
Valor.
Yeah.
Fire something.
And there was this other defunct organization that started with a similar name to BKFC that just fell apart, didn't pay fighters.
Yeah.
That was a disaster. And they have some European promotions, but this one here has got the most traction. Like they put on the Paulie Malignaggi versus Artem Lobov fight, which is probably the most famous one. And they're solid. If you haven't watched them before, they have solid fucking fighters. A lot of ex-MMA, a lot of ex-boxers, which we have a few of on this card. So, man, folks, you can go watch this for $4. I mean, I'm definitely getting it. I was going to order it. I thought it was a pay-per-view. I was going to get it anyways. But Louis Palomino, Jim Allers, they're both excellent in BKFC so far. I have to side with Palomino on this. It's 5 2-minute rounds.
Yeah, it's going to be freaking fireworks, all 5 rounds.
Yes. I love how they start these. There's not, and it is in almost all of their fights. I've only seen 1 or 2 fights on these events, and I've seen 6 or 7 of their events now that have been kind of duds. The way it's designed, I mean, they come to the scratch line like old school fighters.
Yeah.
They have this, it's not a cage, but it's not a ring.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's like this hybrid of steel bars covered in like ring rope.
Yeah.
In a circular kind of cage. They call it the squared circle, though. And they're 5 2-minute rounds, so it really promotes action. And it's kind of small.
Yep.
So they get at it. And we've seen boxers have some success, and we've seen boxers not do well at all. Like Malignaggi lost to Artem Lobov.
Yeah, and looked terrible.
And looked bad.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the co-main event. And this is a perfect example.
Another title fight, yes.
Dat Win is he's a former boxer, and he's been able to really use his boxing style so, like it's almost like he's wearing gloves the way he bare knuckle fights.
Yes.
Like he's just caution to the wind, throwing high volume jabs, getting in firefights, dropping his hands, freaking dodging punches.
Excellent at slipping punches.
Oh
I
my
mean, he
gosh.
is in there with his hands down, slipping punches very cleanly, looking really good. And he throws punches like he has a glove on. And by that we mean they seem to be pretty powerful, and he seems to have very strong hands, because that is a danger in bare knuckle, is damage to your fists, of course.
Yeah.
He looked excellent in his last fight, and he is fighting Reggie Barnett, who is another person who he has pro boxing experience. He is 6-2.
He's
as a boxer.
held a freaking bare knuckle title before.
Held a bare knuckle title before, and he's got pro MMA experience as well.
Yeah.
Now he doesn't have the greatest MMA record, but he had 7 pro MMA fights. So, and MMA does play a little bit of a part in bare knuckle because
there's a clinch.
You've got a clinch, and you've got kind of work up against a cage-like thing with a clinch, you know. So, point being, these are very seasoned fighters. This isn't kind of like if you watch, say, MMA and you go to some of these lower tier leagues like a Legacy or a King of the Cage, you might see some guys, especially on the beginning of the card, that are really raw fighters. Here in BKFC, even though their BKFC record might be 2-0, 3-0, these are not raw fighters.
Yeah, well, here's the thing too: is like even if there is raw fighters, even like the whole idea in BKFC is so pressure forward, so action forward that like you freaking learn on the fly. You know what I mean? Like a lot of these guys, like Melanaji and like Artem and like Jason Knight and freaking, you know.
Well, let's talk about this. This belt is at the 135 pound. This Dat-Win versus Reggie Barnett, and that's an interim title because Johnny Bedford, the current champion, injured his back. This is back on October 21st. The news broke. So here recently, injured his back severely, they're saying, in training, out of the fight. And if you follow MMA, that name might sound familiar to you. He was on a season of The Ultimate Fighter. He did fight in the UFC and Bellator, I do believe. And he had just okay success levels there. But since he's come to the BKFC, he was on the very first BKFC card. They had a tournament for this title. They call it their lightweight, but it's 135 pounds, so we'll just stick to that. It's a 135-pound title. There was a tournament. He won it. He's currently 5-0, and they call him Brutal Bedford for a reason. He is a beast.
Oh, yeah. He's
a beast in bare knuckle.
He's really big, too. Like, he looks like he cuts a lot of weight.
Yeah, he's
a big motherfucker.
This is a sport he is excelling in.
Oh, yeah.
So we've got this interim here with Dat-Win, who, man, he looked good as well. He's 3-0 bare knuckle, I believe, and his last fight we watched before the show here.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, he's putting on a clinic. His
ability to hit and not get hit, I feel like, is the real key if he was going to fight Bedford, because it's just a situation where Bedford's going to be a lot bigger than him.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, he's a natural 135. Bedford, that's the thing. When you look at boxing and MMA, in boxing, people cut weight, but people don't cut weight like people cut weight in MMA or wrestling, because MMA fighters cut weight like they're wrestlers. Like
boxing has so many weight classes in between. You're never that far off.
No, yeah, exactly. Obviously a big part of that is like jiu-jitsu and wrestling and a lot of that. There's only so many weight classes, so you got to cut weight and do other shit. So I feel like a lot of the guys who come in on the MMA side are willing to cut to like 135, whereas like Dat-Win probably has fought 135 his whole life and never really had to cut that much weight to get down to it. You know what I mean?
Now we've got, Barnett's coming in on short notice. Is it Barnett or Barrett?
Barnett.
Well, Reggie's coming in on short notice. Right. However, he, unlike some of these guys who just transitioned solely from MMA, he has pro boxing experience.
Yeah.
So he's probably going to be able to hang with Dat-Win for a while. And he might even be able to pull off the upset, but I got to pick Dat here.
Yeah, I'm taking Dat.
And that's going to set up
Dat.
an absolutely monster fight, which is a fight that was supposed to happen to begin with. But Dat be Dat, hashtag. Bedford versus Win will be a monster fight in BKFC that, if all goes as planned, that's what we'll be talking about when that hits. As far as Louis Palomino, I'm going with him in that as well.
Palomino as well.
Now, there's a whole slew of undercard fighters who I don't really know, But I'll tell you, I said it earlier, and we'll end with this. I've never watched an entire event of BKFC and been disappointed.
True.
Every time I've been like, okay, wow, that was a lot of fun.
Yep.
So I'd encourage the rest of you to check it out, and let's try to help grow this thing a little bit. And it'll be worth your time if you like fights. Oh, shit.
Skipping shit, huh?
You know, Bellator.
Forgetting about the Bellator.
I forgot all about Bellator.
Thursday
Well, I don't want to
night.
end the show without talking about Bellator. They're the soonest one, too.
Yeah.
you know?
Thursday night, we got a title fight.
Yeah, that's
got
right.
Pedro Calvillo out of SBG Ireland taking on Patricio Pitbull.
Yeah, Pitbull. That's what is that? Bellator 252.
252.
Why is that on a Thursday night?
They're all Thursday nights. Last Thursday night as well, Corey Anderson made his debut in Bellator.
And that was
Beat
Thursday
the dog
as well.
shit out of Melvin Manhoff.
That he did.
Just beat the shit out of him. Like, it was rough. So he made his name known. So now, I think it's the whole CBS thing. I think it's a scheduling thing.
It must be, but it works out well because
Yeah,
there
it
isn't
does.
any competition. Because Thursday you got Bellator 252, Friday you got BKFC 14, Saturday you've got ESPN, and then the Crawford card is on ESPN as well.
Yep.
So I'm figuring that, like they have been doing, they're going to make sure those main events don't overlap.
Don't overlap, yeah.
And then it's just boom, boom, boom for combat sports, which is great. But this title fight here in Bellator is a very interesting fight.
Well, here's the thing. It's also a quarterfinal of the featherweight tournament.
Yes.
So this is a title fight that was chosen by, I think it was chosen by Pitbull.
Yeah,
right?
he got to
He
pick.
won the lottery,
yes.
I think.
There were some people a little
Yeah.
upset with his lottery win picks,
Yeah.
but whatever.
But here's the
He was
thing
right.
is Calvillo is no freaking joke. That dude's got a nasty guillotine, and he's the kind of guy that he can pull off submissions from all different kind of crazy like positions and angles. And I mean, his striking's not too bad. Obviously, Pitbull is one of those guys he's kind of good everywhere. You know what I mean? So I think it's gonna be tough to dispatch him or really fucking have any opportunity. Because here's the thing, Pitbull's been in these fights kind of like with the Archuleta fight where he was a huge favorite and he was still able to keep his cool, not overstretch himself, not make the mistake to let a big upset happen. I feel like that's kind of how he's going to fight this fight as well. He's gonna try to get rid of him, but at the end of the day, he's not gonna give up opportunities for him to get the finish against Pedro.
You think we're ever going to see either of the Pitbull brothers in the UFC?
Never.
I don't think so either.
They talk too much shit about the UFC to ever.
Yeah, I don't imagine Dana in that conversation they would have to have behind closed doors.
Nah.
I'm not seeing that happen either.
Nah.
Which is a shame. I wonder sometimes how they do.
Eh.
But I like him this weekend, or this Thursday, I should say, as well.
And then also we have Daniel Welch taking on Emmanuel Sanchez also in that featherweight tournament.
Right.
And a couple other guys who've just been around the game for a while.
I do like how Bellator's doing these tournaments.
Yeah, I do too.
I enjoy that.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see him rolling again.
Mhm.
They kind of fell off the radar, with the whole shutdown.
Yep.
But now
Well,
think
then
that's
also we
rolling.
got after this we also have freaking now of course I forget their names. Darian Caldwell versus
Oh yeah, absolutely.
man, I'm fucking high today.
I know we didn't know the conversation was
There
gonna
we
get
go.
into that.
AJ McKee versus Darian Caldwell is the next
Yeah.
card next weekend too. So they had to put the tournament on hold with the whole COVID thing, and now they're churning out all these events, and now they're catching up finally because they're still in the quarterfinals. You know what I mean? These are all quarterfinal fights. So I'm gonna take Emmanuel Sanchez.
I like Sanchez in that one as well. Now there's another good fight on there. Your boy Aaron Pico is making his return.
Yep, fighting John De Jesus.
Now I think that's a much better fight for him.
Yeah.
I mean the guy's got some experience, but he's not top level competition. He's
12-8 is a pro.
He's 12-8. That's who Aaron Pico should be fighting right now.
Yeah.
Kudos to the matchmaking here.
Yeah. Well, and I think he's the second to, I guess he'd be the co-main event of the prelims.
Yeah. The way they break these down this day,
Yeah.
the co-main event of the preliminary card.
But yeah, this is a good fight for Aaron Pico to show how he's evolved as a fighter and what he's learning down there.
Yeah, he's had some time now down with Greg Jackson.
Yeah.
And I'm really expecting to see something different. You know, this isn't his first fight with them, but that first one, it was, he'd only been at the camp for a couple months, 6 weeks, I think it was.
I think it was just for the camp.
Yeah, it wasn't really enough to see real change in a fighter or real evolution and real growth. But now, especially, with what we've been through in the delay in the fighting, he's had some real interaction with the team down there. And I'm very curious to see what he's picked up and how he's evolved his game, because he has so many skills.
Yeah.
You've brought it up on the show multiple times. Like, we see him get into firefights and they get knocked out, and he didn't need to be in the firefights in the first place.
Dude,
all he's got to do is put that together a little bit.
I'm telling you right now, I've wrestled in that region. Like, me and him are close in age, and I've wrestled against his team before, when we're at the same age.
Yeah.
And that fool was so good back then, they wouldn't let him wrestle unless it was had some kind of stakes behind it. Like, people don't understand. Like, he was on the world team at age 19.
Yeah, that's amazing.
he won he won, it's called the FILA Nationals, which is the college, it's like college 18 to 20. He won that shit when he was 16 years old. Like, people don't understand how good of a wrestler Aaron Pico is. Like, he just doesn't show it in MMA. I do not understand it whatsoever. This dude was on the fucking, he was a 1 point away from going to the Olympics. Like, people,
amazing.
He literally was in the Olympic trials. He lost based on a technicality and didn't go to the Olympics. Like, he is an Olympic level wrestler. Like, he could totally, if he was just said, "Oh, my MMA career is not working out," and just went back to going to straight up wrestling, he could seriously compete, back to where exactly he was at. Like, he is that good of a wrestler. I do not understand why he does not use it. Like, it makes no sense to me whatsoever.
I cannot imagine Greg Jackson, with the fight IQ that they have down there between him and Winklejohn and the rest of that team, I cannot possibly imagine them not utilizing his greatest weapon in their fight planning and in their overall fucking working with him. So
and that's the thing too, is Greg Jackson has been able to set up game plans and stuff for people like John and Rashad and people who have had that wrestling base and how they're able to, use that in their fights. And I think that's what Aaron Pico needs. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
He was training with Dillashaw and all those guys, but all those guys are strikers.
Right.
Dillashaw is a college wrestler and Dillashaw has a wrestling acumen. But at the end of the day, Dillashaw is with who is it? Who's his striking coach? TJ Dillashaw. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, that he left Dwayne Ludwig?
Dwayne Ludwig, yeah. Him and Dwayne Ludwig have just completely changed his whole style.
Yeah, definitely.
You know what I mean? Like, he had a wrestling base coming into the UFC, but now he's such a striker that Aaron Pico being in that camp, it wasn't helping him. It was teaching him different things to do on his feet, but that just doesn't need to be where he doesn't need to be there. You know what I'm saying? He should always just be taking fools down, fuck them up.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully we see that.
Yeah.
In this.
It's a good fight for him.
It's funny, Dwayne Ludwig. I guess that probably runs out the Bellator 252 card.
Yep.
We'll talk about some results after that. And it's funny, you mentioned Dwayne, and this is no disrespect to Dwayne Ludwig, but you remember when him and him and Faber were having all their big fallout publicly, right? When TJ Dillashaw left the team. And now you've seen the show Kingdom.
Yeah.
And the folks, listen, if you haven't checked out Kingdom, the MMA show, not the medieval show, it's on Netflix now.
Yeah,
it's really good. Hopefully we'll get more of it. But there's a guy in there who comes in the later seasons with his supplement.
Oh,
and he sets it up selling it in the gym, right? And then the gym boss, Alvy, he gets all pissed off that he's illegal, selling his fucking homemade supplement in the fucking gym, right? And he gets all mad about it. And it immediately made me, when you said Dwayne Ludwig, it made me think of peanut butter. He's old Dwayne Peanut Butter Ludwig, which he did according to Faber now. This is just according to Faber. That's what he did. He brought his peanut butter shit into the gym and was trying to sell his homemade peanut butter to the fucking team Alpha Male Crew.
Oh my God.
And that was one of the reasons Faber got all mad and was like, get the fuck out.
Really?
Yeah. And this is all just hearsay, you know what I mean? But it's a funny story, especially if you've seen Kingdom and you see like somebody doing that, just setting up the little stand. And
dude, that guy's sketch, dude. He was like, he had like all that shit from like China and shit.
Yeah, super sketch. Mix it. Dude, that's how supplements are made, though. You know, you can really do that. You can make supplements in your garage. Yeah. Throw a label on it and be like, ta-da!
Exactly, for real.
Yeah, super sketch with his China mystical powders. Who knows what it is? Jesus. Yeah. But yeah, check that show out if you haven't seen it. Check out BKFC if you haven't. It's only $4 fucking, folks. And hopefully everybody enjoys this tremendous weekend and pre-weekend of fights that we have coming up. And we're going to get back to smoking on this fine herb. Hope you're doing the same. Thank you for listening. If you're new to the show, you can catch us anywhere you get your podcast from, on Spotify, on Google Play, Apple. We are soon to be on Amazon Podcasts as well, just going through the final process there. You can still catch us on the radio, WBUZ 95, radio.net, Orange Radio app on Thursdays. You can get that information and a whole bunch more in one handy location, Paul.
SWATmade.com, where you can head over there, click the gear button, support the podcast, and tell your friends.
See you, everybody.
Peace.
Peace.